Hello again. My name is Javier Perales. I'm a senior strategist at Purpose Lab. And today we're going to be talking about some of the elements of the strategic management roadmap. Let's see how much ground we can cover. We want to make sure that you are aware of the different things or the different elements that you need to make sure that you have with you whenever we are starting a strategic planning process. So this is the model that we at Purpose Lab have put together for you. It starts with an outer ring, the foundation ring, or where we want to make sure that we are very well aware of everything that we're building. Then we will jump into the inner circle, or the middle of it all, the center of it all, the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And then we have a sequential process that talks about where we are at this point. So what's our starting point, what to do, and how to do it. So the outer ring, the where layer foundations, is basically in this outer ring, or in this first stage, we will talk about what type of structure we will be using to guide us throughout our planning and our executing sessions. So it is very important that we identify the type of organization that we're in, where within this organization we're in, what type of model we're going to be choosing, and the framework that we're going to be choosing. We'll go into more detail a little bit further down the road. Then, as I said, we would jump into the inner circle, the why or the purpose. You've probably heard or read about Simon Sinek in his book, Start with Why. Well, it is very relevant that every organization that is working on a strategic process or strategic initiative or strategic processes or planning, that they know why they're doing what they're doing. Even if you're not working in strategic planning, if you're just working on business as usual, it is very relevant at every level within the organization that we have a purpose for doing what we're doing. So this is all about being able to connect with the reason of the organization to exist, both for the customer and for the internal members of this organization. Once we have these two elements put together, properly combined, then we can start going through the three-step process of, first of all, understanding where am I? This is assessing the different challenges of the organization, starting at point A before going to point B. If you open a map, those are the two things that you're going to be looking for. Where do we want to go? That's your point B. And where are you starting from? That's your point A, right? So in this process, we want to make sure that you have all the information that you need, that you and the strategic team gathers all the information that they need. This is also going to be helping as we move forward in implementing and started working with the creative process. We want to make sure that we've absorbed all of the information that is available to us. And this all happens in this first stage of where am I? This is early stage during the planning process. Then once you've processed all that, then this is the time for you to start creating your plan. What are you going to be doing? So there is a lot of creative thinking in this, let's call it this blue stage, on what to do, all the different alternatives, all the different formulations of strategies, plans, initiatives that we want to think about. There are different things to take into consideration here. One of the most relevant is going a little bit counterintuitive. We will try to focus on creating a lot of ideas. We'll focus on quantity of these ideas. And then when the time comes, we will filter out the right ideas and the proper ideas. And we'll make sure that we are only keeping the ideas that will make the most sense to us. But to begin with, we want to create a lot of ideas. And we do that through a series of challenging and very fun and entertaining techniques and games and processes that engage your creative side of the brain. So this is what to do. And then, of course, how to do it is all about execution. Do it, taking action, change management, what is the right way of organizing your teams, how to make sure that you're being able to assess what's happening within the organization. So let's go into that outer ring to begin with. This outer ring is about your models, your frameworks, and your structure. In this first video, we're going to be talking about these three elements, and we're probably going to be able to go through the strategic hierarchy. So when we're thinking about how are you going to be laying the foundations for your strategic planning process or your strategic management process, you first need to understand where is it that you're standing within the organization. That is very relevant with your strategic hierarchy. Then what are the different elements that you're going to be using within your strategy? And finally, how are you going to be putting those elements together so that they work to your favor, and they work to favor you, to help you in focusing properly as to what are the best way of coming up with initiatives. And of course, you can combine some of these frameworks, but we'll get there when we get there. Let's start with the strategic hierarchy, the first stage and very relevant. So different size of companies have different ways of organizing themselves. And we're not saying that what we're showing here is the ideal way, or either that every company should have all of these four levels that we're going to be presenting. It is very important that you understand that different companies, different sizes might have some of these levels combined. Probably you're a very small company and the same team works at all four different levels. Probably you're a very large multinational and you, at some point, you identify that you actually have more than these four levels. But what's relevant or what's important here is that you see that at different levels and different moments within the strategic planning process, different things need to happen, and there are also different objectives. So at the very top, and this is usually top management, the C-suites, the board of directors, owners, etc. This is the corporate level. And what's most relevant that happens here is that we start by defining what is the organization's DNA. And this DNA, as we will see in another of this video, it includes your mission, your vision, your values, in one word, your organization purpose. The corporate is the one that's responsible for setting the expectations, what the expected impact, what do we want to be recognized for, and what are the most relevant strategic imperatives at this level. This is what we're looking for. So when you are working at any other level of the organization, and this is one very common mistake, you don't need to start setting up your own DNA, your own vision, mission. This should already be coming in from your corporate level. And if you are collaborating at different levels within the organization, do take this into account. First thing that needs to happen is you need to have a proper DNA for your organization. Second level is typically your business unit levels. Now, again, different organizations can have different ways of organizing this, but these business units, they are in charge of organizing or determining what the right strategies, the right indicators, some high-level tasks and activities are going to be taking or need to be taking to contribute with the corporate goals. Some organizations are organized like this, with business units just like that, in terms of branches of business, or sometimes by geography or by country or by continent or areas within one country. But this all happens and it is organized in such a way that each one of these business units more or less operates as an independent entity, but not all the way, right? They are still interconnected, and there are a lot of relationships between one another, and of course they're all part of the same corporate. Now, within, or let's say under the business units, but sometimes also within the business units, there are different functions or different departments. Some of these functions or departments might be broken out amongst the different business units. Sometimes different business units will have their own functions or their own departments. They can be replicates from other business units, or they can be completely different. Sometimes we will also have functions or departments that are actually work, or that they work as supporting roles for different business units at the same time. And this is all very, very fine. The important thing here is that functions or departments, they are typically specialists in what they do. So at this level, it is not their main responsibility. Of course, they can cooperate if they want, but it's not their main responsibility to come up with super creative ideas or super creative plans, but they are actually the experts in different areas, right? So they need to use this expertise to ensure that each business unit is achieving their overall goals, the ones that they set, and they're achieving the indicators or the key results that they set by being able to comply with whatever is it that they do best with their area of specialty. And that is the main responsibility of functions and departments. And then at the fourth level, it comes our typical operations area. Now in this operations area, this is probably the one that's closest to the traditional day-to-day. Let's do more or less, and more or less is the key word or the key concept here, the same work and during different days. And I'm saying more or less because typically, or your typical day is not typical anymore at most companies, right? But this is where most of the things are supposed to be happening, and this is where responsibility basically falls on making sure that they are part of our day-to-day. Be very, very careful. I'm not saying that these are the only guys that are responsible for making everything else happens. These are the guys that are responsible for making sure that the day-to-day of the organization does not stop, and their main responsibility is making sure that that day-to-day is properly aligned to what is expected from different levels of the organization, right? So step number one when building your outer ring is knowing where you're standing within your own organization. And this is talking about your strategic hierarchy. Stay tuned, because the next video, we're going to be talking about a strategic model and strategic framework. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.